This is Saurabh, and you're listening to my favorite talk show, The Weekly Show with Aditya.
Only 5 episodes remain from a historic 250 episodes. India's number one talk show welcomes you to episode 245 on the 10th of August 2020. This is, of course, the unofficial Independence Day week, though the irony of the term Independence Day and all the activities surrounding it with all the detentions and the lockdowns is not lost on us. But this talk show is not going to dwell on such things, and we are going to have some fun as this is a fun talk show. So let's have some fun. This song is for all the pessimists who have put themselves in a dark hole because of this pandemic fear, more like unnecessary pandemic fear. So let's listen to this song and enjoy it. जिंदगी एक सफर है सुहाना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। हो जिंदगी एक सफर है सुहाना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। ओ उडले उडले ओ, 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 उडले उडले ओ। चांद तारों से चलना है आगे, आसमानों से बढ़ना है आगे। अरे चांद तारों से चलना है आगे, आसमानों से बढ़ना है आगे। पीछे रह जाएगा ये जमाना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। हो जिंदगी एक सफर है सुहाना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। ओ उडले उडले ओ, 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 उडले उडले ओ। हंसते गाते जहां से गुजर, दुनिया की तू परवाह न कर। अरे हंसते गाते जहां से गुजर, दुनिया की तू परवाह न कर। मुस्कुराते हुए ये दिन बिताना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। हे जिंदगी एक सफर है सुहाना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। मौत आनी है आएगी एक दिन, जान जानी है जाएगी एक दिन। अरे मौत आनी है आएगी एक दिन, जान जानी है जाएगी एक दिन। सी बातों से क्या घबराना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। जिंदगी एक सफर है सुहाना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। उडले उडले ओ, उडले उडले ओ। Time and productivity are two abstract mediums, and they are as incompatible as any two abstract things could be. Remember, time is an abstract medium. Time is what we perceive. For example, it's a certain time right now, and I'm spending time on creating, producing, writing this particular talk show. Do I see this as productive work? For me, it's more than just productivity. For me, it's half an hour of my thoughts shared with the rest of the world. So, do I think that the time spent on making this particular talk show is worth it? Well, it's more than worth it It is something that cannot be explained in words. It is something that unless you experience something like this, for example, can a Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and other such painters express and explain their painting? No. Their paintings have had numerous interpretations. One, Da Vinci, the Mona Lisa painting by Da Vinci, has had so many interpretations. It's gone beyond just another painting. For example, there is this perception that from whatever angle you look at the painting, it looks as if the photo is looking back at us. It looks as if the painting is following us. So that's what our perception is. And if it's the question of time and productivity, there's a certain section in our society which spends their time analyzing others, what we call researchers. We are proud of this group called researchers. We are proud of those who create, who innovate, but creation, innovation, research is all abstract, it's not physical, and time spent on that is seen as productive. Well, as I said, productivity and time are not only abstract but they are also subjective. Let me read you from a very interesting article. This article is from the Harvard Business Review, and the title of this article is Want to be more productive? Try doing less. But my question is, what is less and what is more? How do you define time waste and time well spent? Well, we have believed for the past 6 to 7 decades that, for example, the television, that cathode ray instrument or the LED squared box is a waste of time. Even this, while saying that television is a waste of time, television is an idiot box, I would say that it depends from person to person. What you watch on this squared box, on this LCD squared rectangle, defines what is the definition of time wasted or time well spent. As you know, as the education system has moved online, has moved into the electronic world with physical classes coming to a halt, the classes are either taken on the online platforms, and those who don't have access to online platforms or those who have internet connectivity issues, then the governments and the education departments have come up with a novel solution where they provide lectures on TV. So yes, if you're watching something productive, if you're watching an educational lecture or a video on TV or through some medium on TV, then it's not a waste of time because the mind absorbs the audio and the visual medium more. So this discussion is open to interpretation. How do we interpret that LED rectangle? According to this article, David Rock, author of Your Brain at Work, found out that we are truly focused on our work a mere 6 hours per week, which starkly contrasts our collective buy into the 40-hour work week. This article emanates from the fact that if we want to ramp up our productivity and happiness, we should be actually doing less. Well, the most interesting part about this article is that I'm actually doing that already. I don't have to be influenced by this article, but I found this article very interesting because the article begins with a rather subjective statement. We have been taught that if we want more money, achievement, vitality, joy, peace of mind, we need to do more. The focus on do, to add more to our ever growing to do list. Irony about this article is that once upon a time before this pandemic scare and the pandemic circus started, I was reading articles about a term called work life balance, which essentially means that you distinguish from what you do at your work, you leave your work at work, and when you come home, you relax. But ever since this concept of work from home started, the work life balance has been totally messed up. Yes, it has its own pros and cons, and the definition of productivity is well taken to a whole new level. Now, instead of individuals meeting and congregating at a certain place and brainstorming whatever topic or whatever thing they have to brainstorm, what we have now is continuous campaigns about stay away, stay away, stay away. That is all we get to hear. So, as I said, this article is wholly subjective and open to interpretation. Read you a paragraph from this author and we shall discuss it more. This paragraph says that make a list of your biggest wins, like a speaking gig, a presentation you really nailed at work, or a pitch that was accepted at a major publication. This can often be a difficult step for some people. We have not been culturally conditioned to celebrate ourselves. So often, folks draw a blank when listing their wins. Let's look at some of the keywords in this paragraph. Speaking gig, a presentation, or a pitch. For me, a speaking gig, I've already done a good job on that. A presentation, nailed well. I don't really work in the definition of work, but when I make presentations, I think I do a great job. A pitch that was accepted at a publication, well, that has already happened thrice. This article also mentions on the extreme side the onerous task, the monotonous task that individuals have to do every day, and how the nature of these tasks have changed. The question is, what is productivity? Why do human beings have to be perfect? If we accept the phrase to err is human and then frown at what one calls mistakes, just doesn't really add up, does it? The most ironical thing is that when we look at a company, we look at its turnover or what one calls the bank balance. So if an X company makes in crores, there is a profit of crores. For example, we think it's a valuable company. So while this article talks about time and productivity, on the extreme hand, humans and brick and mortar buildings in terms of the value. And what is the definition of value? Yes, value is directly proportional to how much you make, how much is in your bank. We talk about productivity and time spent and the fact that money is not a fundamental entity, yet we express false pride. And I'm talking only in context of a certain country. It could be any country. When you see in newspapers that a certain business person or a business tycoon is now the world's fourth richest business tycoon, we jump in joy as if something great has been achieved. And such thoughts proves that humans by design, by default, are malleable, are easily into the realm of gullibility and are easily scared. We all know what is happening right now. Another ironical situation is that when a student goes to college, first thing they research is, or the first thing the multiple magazines show the research on when the college season starts is that this particular college has the most number of patents, the most number of researchers, and the most number of students getting placed. The title of this article itself is ironical because it says want to be more productive. Where does the term production come from? It comes from assembly lines, means you are producing people. The title of this article itself is ironical and it shows the double standards of our living. Whether I spend 2 hours on completing a project or 12 hours on completing a project or 12 days on completing a project, eventually it's a project, eventually it has to be done. So it's either done in a hurry or without thinking about ubiquitous and silly terms such as productivity. Just do the work because you enjoy it, not because you want to be productive and happy. As I said, happiness is a subjective term. Indeed, he said, putting a wealth of sniffiness into the word. A thing about this undersized little son of a bachelor I ought to have mentioned earlier is that during his career on the bench, he was one of those unpleasant, sarcastic magistrates who get themselves so disliked by the criminal classes. You know the type. Their remarks are generally printed in the evening papers with the word laughter after them in brackets, and they count the day lost when they don't make some unfortunate pickpocket or some wretched drunk and disorderly feel like a piece of cheese. I know that on the occasion when we stood face to face in the Bosher Street Police Court, he convulsed the audience with three solid jokes at my expense in the first 2 minutes, bathing me in confusion. Indeed, he said, might I inquire why you were conducting your literary researches in the dark? Surely have been well within the scope of even your limited abilities to press a light switch. He had me there, of course. The best I could say was that I hadn't thought of it, and he sniffed a nasty sniff as much as to suggest that I was just the sort of dead from the neck up dumb brick who wouldn't have thought of it. He then turned to the subject of the clock, one which I would willingly have left unventilated. He said he had always valued it highly, it being more or less the apple of his eye. My father bought it many years ago. He took it everywhere with him. Again, I might have lightened things by asking him if his parent wouldn't have found it simpler to have worn a wrist watch, but I felt once more that he was not in the mood. My father was in the diplomatic service and was constantly transferred from one place to another. He was never parted from the clock. Accompanied him in perfect safety from Rome to Vienna, from Vienna to Paris, and from Paris to Washington, from Washington to Lisbon. Would have said it was indestructible, but it had still to pass the supreme test of encountering Mr. Wooster, and that was too much for it. It did not occur to Mr. Wooster. One cannot think of everything. That light may be obtained by pressing a light switch. So he England in their first match against Pakistan won by chasing a total of 270 plus runs. But when they were 117 for 5, most would have given up. And when you had the likes of Chris Wokes and Josh Butler on the crease, would have not given any kind of chance to England because Wokes and Butler are no Stokes and Root. So you didn't expect the likes of Wokes and Butler to do the job, but not only did they do the job, They took England to a famous win, which was, as always, diluted by an empty arena. Let me tell you, 20 years ago, when such a match would have happened, the crowd would have erupted and you would have said, yes, this form of sport is popular. Now, the irony is that people want to come, but they cannot come. And once upon a time, when people didn't want to come, the organizers, the management were pushing for them to come, luring them with free tickets, entertainment zones for children, free drinks for the members of the clubhouse of the ground, and now it's absolutely empty. Now, in the world where technology overpowers us, technology takes control of us, why don't we use this technology to create an atmosphere where the players feel that yes, they are in an exciting atmosphere? Why does not DJ songs or play recorded crowd noises every time there is a four or a six or a wicket or some kind of thing happening on the field? Why can't the organizers, the management? I'm sure the voices of the crowd have been recorded, because if you look at the virtual games, that is the EA Sports games, even there, which is of course virtual and artificial and only a video game, even there you have the crowd noises, the crowd reaction. So why can't they juxtapose virtual and actual reality? Why can't they have a situation where if a player hits a four, there is clapping, even if the clapping is constructed by using voices of the recorded voices of the spectators? Cannot take this thing as an experiment, as that if crowds are not allowed or if a limited number of people are allowed in the ground, then why not use this technology just as they use this technology in video games or the virtual reality games? Then section of the management of the sports board would call it expensive. Well, that irony is not lost on me. They cannot claim the expense if they are ready to bear the operational cost of going without gate money, where there is no gate money, where the sponsors are limited, where they are spending a fortune on the test done on the players to make sure that they are fit, they are not ill, they are not affected by this flu. They are ready to bear the cost of the tests and such things, or if they are ready to bear the cost of the hotels that the players will live in, the containment zones, the detention areas of each section, the bubble created. If that kind of money can be spent, if they are spending money on the virtual robots where the players are interacting through a roving camera, then why not open your pockets a little more, have a contract with an entertainment company, convince the two boards that yes, players need this so that they are not affected by being contained in their own hotel rooms or in their own bubbles. So, yes, is it needed? It is needed in every sport. Expenditure and operational costs cannot be an excuse for not being able to do this exercise. As I said, if they are ready to spend money on the endless, unnecessary testing of the players and all the bubble and the containment zones created, and the risk of going in without gate money, then a bit of virtual reality, a bit of crowd reaction, even if it is sports artificial, is important so that the players feel involved. Otherwise, for the players, it's just another match where they would rather play a video game than be on the field in real life. Players can only say subtly that yes, we miss the crowds, but they cannot be explicit. Remember, the players are nothing more than mere contractual employees of the sports board. So they have their own restrictions. It is the sports board and the management and the various sponsors who are in absolute control of a match because they decide whether a player will play. If the player is sick or has the flu, the entire match is cancelled, the entire tournament is cancelled. So all the players can do is give a certain message, have some kind of crowd interaction, even if it is virtual, artificial, and through artificially created sounds. This ends a very exciting episode number 245 as we are in the unofficial Independence Day week and are moving towards slowly but surely a milestone of 250 episodes.
For more awesome content, tune in to the next episode of the weekly show with Aditya.